Incorporating type with graphics is one of the hallmarks of a typical motion graphics project. In this tutorial, we're going to use a shape layer to help better define the visual hierarchy in the composition and make the text pop off the background. Our text here is over top of a really busy background. And if we go to the bottom of the timeline and enable the visibility of layer 4, you can see I have a beautiful color for the background, but since it's the same color as the leaves on the top and bottom, I definitely need to add something in between this logo and this color solid. And to do that, I'm going to add a shape layer. So the first thing you want to do when you're trying to create a shape layer in a composition is make sure there are no layers selected in the timeline. Then you can go up to the tool panel and click and hold on one of the shape tools. Since I had the rectangle tool active last, that's the tool that was up. But if you'd been using a different tool, you may have a different tool active here. Make sure the rectangle tool is the one that's chosen, and then come over to the right side here. Whenever you have a shape layer selected, you can adjust its fill and stroke options up here. I like how those are set up, so let's get started creating our first shape layer. Position your mouse over the left side, kind of in the middle of the composition panel, and click and drag down to the right. Hold Shift after you start dragging, and that will keep the square in proportion. Once you've drawn something similar to this, you can go ahead and let go of your mouse and let go of Shift. Now we can look at the shape layer in the timeline. Shape layers have their own icon, and they also have contents. And this contents was rectangle 1 because that was the tool I had chosen to use. If we open the options for rectangle 1, notice rectangle 1 has its own transform options. So let's open up those transform options. And under the rotation parameter, let's go ahead and scrub the rightmost rotation parameter. Notice this rotation for rectangle 1 is rotating around the center of the shape itself. I'll press Ctrl-Z on Windows or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that last rotation. And let's collapse the transform for rectangle 1. Open the transform options for the layer and then click and drag on the rotation, and you notice now the shape is actually rotating around the center of the composition. So again, I'll press Ctrl-Z on Windows or Command-Z to undo that last setting. To position the rectangle in the middle of the composition panel, open the transform options for rectangle 1 and change the position to 0 on the X, and then press Tab to move to the Y, and let's change that to 0 as well. And we can press Enter to set. Now let's make this rotate on a 45-degree angle. So go down to the rotation setting and change that to 45 and press Enter. Now you may notice that we need to make this shape larger. So all we have to do is just click and drag to the right on the scale parameter. And since this shape layer is a vector element, I can scale it up well over 100% and it'll still remain tack sharp. Once you've scaled up the square to be a size that you like, scroll up in the timeline and let's collapse the shape layer and position it vertically in the layer hierarchy. So let's drag it between layers 3 and 4, and then go enable the visibility for layer 5 so we can look at our shape layer. And it's definitely helped our logo pop off the background. So having multiple transform properties available using shape layers gives you access to an extra hierarchy of transform properties. This does come in handy when it comes time to create complex animation.